I really personally love the lighting on the Corvette photograph. I won't necessarily tell you the whole story of how the photograph came about. It's a very, very long and protracted story, painful for me. The results, I think, speak for themselves. If you want to know more, read the little narrative. It's not maybe so little, but it does tell about the whole process of how it morphed from what was supposed to be a lowrider car in a big garage to a muscle car to the sort of classic American roadster sports car, which it is now. A little of the background of the shot is that indeed I did try to do a photograph of a sort of tricked out, very full, colorful lowrider car in a garage, and it would sort of look like a jewel of beauty and paint and color in this very dirty garage. It turns out that was not really possible. Garages that have the right character and flavor of what I wanted to photograph are much too small. After literally like 8 or 9 months of looking at well over 100 garages in Los Angeles and getting nowhere, I got some close calls, but they weren't quite right. I eventually found an old garage up in Central California, which is now the headquarters for Aquino's Towing. It's Albert Aquino owns this, what used to be an old garage, you know, gas station garage, and it's now the headquarters for his towing business. When I called the gentleman up on the phone, I met him through a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy, you know, it's a long story. But he was very receptive to the idea, and I was kind of ready for my spiel about its art and beauty and Americana, and within 3 or 4 words out of my mouth, he said, yeah, sure, come on up. So I was a little taken aback that I didn't get to sort of present my speech. We spent the day together basically as I finally came up 3 weeks later or so and talked with Albert and looked at his garage and, you know, discovered he also owns several Corvettes himself personally, and that's the ones we used in the photograph. That we spent several hours together, and as we were doing this, you know, looking at his house and meeting his family, looking at the garage, looking at the vets, kind of picking things out, he was telling me about his philosophy of life and kind of where he came from, his background. And he is the son of immigrant parents to America from Mexico. And he was explaining that the lessons his father taught him about the importance of family and, you know, the value of integrity and honor, you know, having a plan in life, sticking to it, you know, all these things which are, I think, very appropriate, and I totally believe in them. They're very good lessons in life. As we sort of spent several hours together, we shared a lot of these ideas and thoughts. He asked me about my photographs. I explained I don't really know what's going to happen yet. My main concern is just to make them. I'm not really worried about marketing or sales. I'm not clever enough for that. I just want to make these pictures and try to document these things in America that I think are valuable and important. Things like honor and integrity, all the things he talked about. Toward the end of the day, as we were kind of getting closer, I realized that, you know, we need some people in this picture too, and what does he have in mind, or what might he think of? And he explained that he's got a son-in-law and a nephew who'd be perfect. They work in the garage, they work on the cars, they're mechanics themselves, and it's all sort of a family sort of project. So that was great. We descended all of us together on his garage about 4 in the afternoon in the middle of summer during the hottest heat wave for 20 years, and it must have been 110 degrees in that garage on that afternoon. We had to gut all the old stuff, put in our stuff, you know, set the whole thing up. As we did the shot that night, it was very pretty to look at the little pieces come up of the lighting on the Corvette and under the Corvette, and I painted with my light all the little pieces around the garage. When the whole shot is said and done, I'm very happy for it. It's got a wonderful sort of flavor and feel. And I realized something very interesting toward the end of the whole thing when I'm working for, you know, 30 hours, 40 hours, putting the shot back together in my computer, all these little pieces, and I look at it finished and I realize, you know, it's not so much really a photograph of a vintage Corvette or two in a garage. To me, it's really more of a family portrait. That sure, you know, Mike, his son-in-law, who's working under the rear axle, is, you know, is in the shot, and Pete, his nephew, is at sort of the front of the car. But it's really more of an extended family portrait of Albert Aquino and his entire philosophy of life. Not just, you know, the toys that we collect and the things that we have and the things even that we do. It's more the idea of the importance of family and the importance of your word and integrity and having plans in life and sticking to them and all these things that I think count for so much more. And often the things that I'm trying to photograph is these, you know, embodied by these values And I think if you look closely, at least for myself, when I look at the photo, that's what I really see now. It's just missing the actual people, but it is still an extended family portrait and a philosophy of obra dicino to me, myself. As a funny little note in the picture, it's maybe hard to see it on the website, but if you look very closely on the left-hand side, the photograph is called Corvette, a Coke, and a Smile. And if you look very closely at Pete, he's holding up kind of a girly magazine, and at his feet is a little Coca-Cola sitting on top of a battery. So I just included that too. It's just sort of a, I don't want to necessarily take these shots too seriously. They are supposed to be fun to look at, entertaining and interesting, not, fundamental statements of philosophy. So that's kind of where I'm coming from for the Corvette photo.